Hello, I'm Gulshan Kayembe. I'm the Patient and Public Champion for Ipswich and East Suffolk CCG. We're here today to talk to people. We're on the streets of Ipswich and Felixstowe, taking people's views in order to listen to what they have to say about our health service here in Ipswich and East Suffolk. What's healthy to you?
A reasonable diet, some regular exercise, and a bit of get up and go.
Well, I suffer from bipolar, so being healthy to me means when I'm stable.
To be able to get out and about, meet the people, have a chat, and generally enjoy life.
So as far as I'm concerned, it means being independent and being able to do things as well as you can as you get older.
Well, I suppose it's the way you eat, the way you exercise, etc., etc.
Is there anything you could do differently about being healthy, about having a healthy lifestyle, do you think?
Well, I suppose I could do with losing some weight.
Okay.
I could do more exercise, I think.
Okay.
But we do eat quite healthy. I cook most meals.
Giving up smoking would be a massive increase in health straight away, wouldn't it?
It would, as well as the pocket, yeah.
As well as the pocket.
Yeah.
Then I do gym and that here and there, so a little bit more exercise.
I think it's important to keep active as much as you can, do what you can, even if it's not as good as it used to be.
Well, I'm trying to give up smoking at the moment, so that's one of the major issues. And I've just bought a bike from Halfords, so...
Oh, brilliant!
So I shall be doing a bit more exercise.
What do you think the health services could do differently to you, to help you?
That we could get to see a doctor quicker.
They could do with more input on the mental health side.
There isn't enough time. You're being rushed through a door, or you're made to feel like you're being a hypochondriac.
You need to be told how to live a healthy life and whatever, but it doesn't need to be patronising.
What do you think is the best thing about the health services?
The best thing with the health service is that it takes away a lot of the worries.
Well, I like that you can go to the doctors.
I like the fact it's free, okay?
It's easily accessible.
Okay.
Via your GP.
If you're desperately in need, they're there and available.
Anything you don't like about it? Anything that's difficult or could be better?
Well, sometimes you have to wait ages to get an appointment.
I think that's the worst bit, is telling people what they need rather than asking people what they need.
Slow response for ambulances.
Is there anything you'd do differently if you were running the health services in Suffolk?
No, I think the only thing I can say is that I'm thankful that I'm not. You know, it is such a difficult thing. Every individual has their own desires and their own needs and their own requirements of the service, and therefore, you know, you can never win whatever happens, I think.
Yeah, at an earlier age, a few sort of more regular checkups just to put your mind at rest, because stress and depression being the biggest killer.
Yes.
I think that's something that needs addressing.
More aftercare.
Okay.
I think they send people out of hospital too quickly.
Education is the key, isn't it? Education is the way. For knowledge is worth a lot. People pay big money for knowledge.
It is.
You know, for information, they pay big money for information and knowledge. I think if the NHS was to try and shove it down people's throats a little bit more, it'd give us a bit more insight into it all. Maybe we'll start looking after ourselves a bit more than that.
Well, thank you, Rachel, and thank you, everyone, for coming to our event this afternoon. We're looking so forward to working with you all now and in the future, because this is going to be our only event. This commissioning group is especially looking forward to the 300 hours of free consultancy that you're about to be able to give us. And I hope you use every opportunity to text us with your thoughts. So as the afternoon progresses, get those thumbs working, and most of all, free up your imagination to help us get some of those ideas across. The last time I addressed an audience of this size, and I can say that I've never addressed an audience where it's actually going out the door at the back, it was at my medical school review 25 years ago. And the purpose of that particular evening was to take the mickey out of many of the audience members. And I hope that with the techie bit here and the text coming through, I don't get a reverse on that one. Though knowing a few people who are present in this room, I'm not going to hold my breath. Rachel brought up an analogy with a jigsaw. And that analogy this afternoon is a good one to describe the challenges that all CCGs face. You all being here reminds me of doing jigsaws as a kid. My little sister, she always wanted to help, because you just can't help yourself when there's a jigsaw. You've got to try and put your piece in. And that was really annoying, but actually she was really good at doing jigsaws. And today I'm going to ask you to be like my little sister, but actually I'm going to ask you to help do this jigsaw with us. This particular jigsaw, and yes, it is a Where's Wally, and no, that's not an opportunity to text further where the Wally is. It shows where maybe we'd like to be with our health service. It's a bit of a nice place, a few little structures there. It's got lots of people. There's some sunny skies, and okay, there's a little bit of a cloud, perhaps a bit of cloud on the horizon. It sort of sounds familiar. But, and it's a big but, this picture has to be multifaceted, because we all naturally see things from our own point of view. Whether we're commissioners of services, providers of care, work for the voluntary sector, or members of the public or their representatives, or of course, most importantly, a patient or their carer. And what we've heard today from the Vox Pop is that our public want to just get on and live their lives in as good a health as they can. That generally they know what they should do, but how they go about doing it is something that they may need some help with. So what can we do here today to start making a difference to people's lives? And once again, a plea, get those thumbs working. Give us your ideas. The members of the CCG have set some priorities, and here they are. And I'll describe a bit later about how that came about. And they're on your tables too. And the challenge that we've got today, and what we're going to have a go at, is the blue sky bit of the jigsaw, the bit that's actually quite difficult to do. And having that help from you will help get us getting an understanding about our priorities, and also thinking about what delivering those priorities will actually entail if we're going to be successful. So just think, what could really make a difference? However, missing here today are 364,500 other people that make up the population of our CCG, and thereby we're missing a lot of other points of view, which is another challenge that this room and we as a CCG face. As the guy said, I wouldn't really like to be in that position to make those decisions. One of the things that I heard today on Radio 4 was about the Olympic Games, and Sebastian Coe. He asked that the London Olympic Organising Committee inspire a generation. But when they were doing the parade yesterday, the athletes reflected back that actually the public support that they had was what inspired them to achieve greater things than they thought they could imagine. So Gulshan, whilst I'm sure that we can have a go at representing those views, the views of our missing population as well, how do you see our CCG intentions to keep the patient and public voice at the heart of what we do and make things happen every day and help them inspire us to make greater achievements?
Well, I think the key is listening, and that's it. That is something we started to do. We started to do it by going out to do that Vox Pop. And you know, the really interesting thing about going out and doing the Vox Pop was the fact that people that we spoke to and that you heard speaking on that piece of film, they all knew what their health issues were. They all had a reasonably good idea of what they needed to do or what elements of their health they needed to improve. They may not necessarily have known how. They may have had issues of access. And I think the key is to really get into that listening mode and really talk to people and listen to them about what their potential issues are and help and support in terms of shaping the services that we're providing to meet their needs. Help them with access if that's where they want help, and that was something, as I said, that came up a couple of times. And get them to feed into us in terms of shaping services, the way that will really and truly meet their health needs. Some of the ways that we've got to do that, broad brush, is some real cultural change. I think there's cultural change at two levels. There's one around those of us in the NHS and how we start listening, really listening to people and taking the views on board and putting those into not just our policies but into the day-to-day interactions with people and making them feel comfortable about talking about their needs. The document No Decision About Me Without Me talks very much about personalising the services, the way that people want them personalised for themselves. And that means involving them in decisions that all the way through their healthcare, right from before diagnosis, through diagnosis to post-diagnosis. And it's helping our staff make that change then, that cultural change, and the people that work within the health service make that cultural change. Some of that's well on its way already, but we could certainly go further down that route in terms of really turning it around completely. I think the second is technology. We really need to use the technology. We're trying to do that today with the texting. There's the internet. I mean, we know, people. We hear about people who sleep with their mobiles. So clearly, that is a way to get to people. Not necessarily to everybody, and we need to be aware of that. But certainly, we could make much greater use in harnessing the technology to engage with people at all sorts of levels in terms of shaping the services that we provide in Ipswich and East Suffolk to meet their needs. The patient and public voice needs to be, at the heart of our commissioning. And the communities, I mean, you guys are representing a very, very wide range of communities, and there are more out there. And it's how we get out there and meet all those different people. Coming back, Mark, though, to the governing body, we've talked about the governing body doing this commissioning. Tell us a little bit about what the CCG looks like and what it does.
Well, a lot of people ask me what is a CCG, and especially my closest working colleagues. A CCG is a clinical commissioning group. It's a membership of all the GP practices in its area, and it's represented by elected and appointed governing body. It's clinically led, and it's supported by very experienced management, and it has representation of hospital consultant and nursing voice, and it also has a lay person championing the voice of patients and the public, Gulshan, and for ensuring good governance. The GPs on the governing body have been elected by their peers, and they have great knowledge of the area, and they have knowledge of the needs of patients, and they also have knowledge of the business of commissioning as well. This is an evolution rather than a revolution. Between us, the 7 GPs on the governing body have got probably over 100 years of experience in general practice, so we're definitely not fresh-faced, and we bear those responsibilities that are given to us very seriously. We're supported clinically as well by an executive of a further 7 GPs, and every practice who is a member has its own representative voice across 4 locality areas within the CCG. So we have a very strong clinical representation. We also have public health support, and we contribute significantly to the Health and Wellbeing Board for Suffolk. But to be effective, we need to listen and get everyone participating. So Gulshan, how are you going to help us with this?
Yes, it's quite a challenge, I think, looking at the sort of 385,000 people within our constituency, as it were. I mean, some of the words I've got written down in terms of how we're actually going to do it, and then the partnerships that we're going to make. It is about the connections. It's about joining the connections in terms of partners. It's about joining voices in terms of the people who already exist out there, who are out there very ready to help us and to share their ideas and their thinking with us, and to help us fill in that jigsaw puzzle, to shape that jigsaw puzzle perhaps into the three-dimensional form that you talked about. I think one of the things to say is that, you know, for starters, this is not a one-off event. Today is just a start, and we hope the start of many more events such as this, where we have an opportunity to listen and to hear and to consult with the people living within the Ipswich and East Suffolk area to tell us, you know, what we're doing right, and B, what it is that we need to do even better and to improve the services that we've got. I think one of the things in terms of the few months that I've been involved with the CCG, I've been meeting a wide range of different groups, and what hits you at once, I think, in Suffolk is the many and diverse groups that are already out there and are doing absolutely fantastic stuff around health. And health within small communities, local communities, sometimes bigger communities across the whole of Suffolk. I mean, just to give you a couple of examples, 2 or 3 examples, I met the Bangladeshi Support Centre advisors and people working within that particular community. And somebody else just this afternoon said that what the Bangladeshi Support Centre doesn't know about community engagement, you could put on the back of a postage stamp. But they did, you know, been doing tremendous work and project work around their communities in improving health. They recently had a health day where not only was there a lot of opportunity for education and passing on information, but there was some practical support and help for members of the community in terms of their personal health. I heard earlier this afternoon about the Caribbean and African Health Support Group doing something similar, having a men's group, for example, to open up the discussion and the debate that men, that I'm told, men so rarely want to talk about prostate cancer, but it's actually a really important topic. So that is beginning to happen and open out. Cooking classes, you know, about making healthy food, cooking healthy things. I also went to a patient partnership group, a patient voice group with one of our practices in Ravenswood. And again, you know, a very lively group that actually ask questions, ask very relevant questions, very challenging questions, and actually make important points about, have we thought of this? How are we going to do this? And I think those are all the sorts of things we need to do. Listen and talk to those people, to go away and find solutions to the issues, the problems perhaps that people raise, or the questions people raise about, you know, how their health in their communities is actually going to improve. You kind of mentioned a bit about partnerships as well. There are other partners, statutory partners. The NHS is not the only one that has a responsibility for health. We have the Health and Wellbeing Board, and there are a range of other partners. So it's connecting with those partners, not doubling up the work, but actually sharing what we're doing, sharing and extending good practice, not just from the few groups that I've mentioned, but I hope the much wider range of groups that I'm going to get engaged with, the CCG is going to get engaged with and work with over this year and coming years. So I think those are some of the ways in which we're going to address this and how we're going to solve this. We have an engagement strategy which we're working on, but that needs to be real because it's about people. And what I'm really keen on is that we're creative about how we engage with people and how we involve people. That it isn't talking workshops. It isn't about you come and tell us and then we forget what you said. It's actually taking notice of what's being said and then being just as creative in the way we address those solutions or address the solutions to those problems. Because as Rachel's already said, there isn't an endless pot of money anywhere. So again, it's I think centrally as well as putting equality and diversity at the heart of everything we do, because everyone is an individual with individual needs. Coming back though, you know, having said about some of the things we need to do, Mark, what about the CCG? What sort of things, you know, do you want to talk about some of the things we've done in engaging partners and others?
Well, so far we've spent time putting our clinical foundations in place on which the CCG will hopefully thrive and take your views and turn them into some form of clinical reality. So we've spent time with our practices. We've been distilling down their views as well to help form these clinical priorities that you can see here. So we have a starting point. But we've been doing this probably over the last couple of years or so, But the opportunities now being presented of being a CCG, we can really have that added clinical weight to drive them forward. We're now in the decision-making seat. Let's help get them going. But we've also had great events with lead clinicians from Ipswich Hospital and also our local mental health trust. And we are securing a really good understanding between us of how we actually work together and committing to securing good quality local services by working collaboratively, not in a we say you do kind of fashion. We have a large number of examples of where we've been closely working and getting involved in service improvement for patients in this way, and by having your involvement, we believe we can make those even better. We've also been working hard with our county council partners and voluntary services, and we have examples of service change for the better for particularly our older population, and a number of ideas about what differences could be made by working much more closely and collaboratively. And with our Health and Wellbeing Board, we share a number of the priorities that you've been seeing today so far, and now we need to work out how do we work together to make it better and get those changes through in a much more timely fashion. So, Gulshan, we've got some of those jigsaw pieces coming into place, and a lot of work to do on those much more difficult pieces. Is there anything else that you've got in mind about what we can do to make that even better?
Well, I think, again, one of the things we've got to do is look at these priorities. They've sort of gone off from the screen, but some interesting. I'm glad to see people are using the numbers. Fantastic. Oh, yeah. So we're getting a few messages over there already, and all really relevant. Somebody picked out about the districts as well, and I agree. The districts are out there doing a lot of work around through local strategic partnerships and all sorts of other mechanisms. And I think that's really fantastic. But again, something we need to engage in a relevant way with, or make sure that we have the roots through and the communications through. But I think today it's a lot about the priorities. We've identified some. They're quite high-level priorities. So at one level they need to be broken down into sort of chunks which are more meaningful, but which also ensure for us and for you that we are doing the things within those listed priorities that you want and that you feel are important for us to focus on, and by which we can measure our success as well. There are some blanks though as well, and we need to identify what the blanks are. What are some of the things that ought to be up there as our priorities, which aren't? These priorities are a starting point. We're at the starting gate, as it were, and they're not. Doesn't mean that once those priorities are there, that's it, they can't change. They will. We need you to help us shape those priorities so that they really are meaningful and achieve the kind of health services that we want within Suffolk, and achieve the healthiness that we want within Suffolk. So really, it's about you guys filling in the blanks to our jigsaw picture, really, at the beginning. And we're looking forward to the things that you have to say, the advice that you can give us, the pointers that you can give us today. And I promise we will look at all of those and we will feed back to you, but more of that later. But really, you have an opportunity to feed into our priorities, help shape them, break them down, increase them, fill in the blanks. There's also a points of view on every table as well, and please do fill that in and let us have that back. But we hope that you enjoy the afternoon session, and we hope that you feel that you've had a good opportunity, as I said, just at the starting blocks, to begin to feed into us the sorts of things that we need to be thinking about and the questions we need to be asking as well of ourselves and others.